welcome to the Universe is Talking podcast. I'm your host, King.
And I'm your host, Aja.
Today's episode is titled Forcing Your Love. In this episode, we're going to talk about people trying to force their love and or value on someone that they're interested in or may even love, and how actually talks about how you're not really as valuable as you may think you are or as valuable as you're saying that you are.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No. My fault. Go ahead.
I see it all the time. I'm an observer of life. I think that you are as well. But in general, like not even if women or men are in relationships, but even outside of relationships, almost especially when they're not in relationships, they're talking about what value they have to someone of the opposite sex. And we've touched upon this a little bit during the podcast over the last couple seasons, where even in social media, often women and men display or share things about themselves that they want to use to attract the opposite sex. So they may discuss maybe their cooking skills, or they may post a lot of pictures of their body in an effort to lure or to attract the opposite sex or same sex, depending on which way you go. But the idea that you can tell someone how good you are or show someone how good you are without actually being in the relationship. And then you find that in a relationship, those same people sometimes will eventually, when the relationship starts going in a direction that they didn't anticipate or just doesn't feel good, they try to do whatever they can to show that they have some value or that this person should be loving them for XYZ reasons. It's a sad thing to watch for me, because one of the things that I learned pretty early on is that you can't convince someone to love you. That's number one. They either do or they don't. And even when they do and it feels like they don't, maybe they just don't know how to love you in the way that you need. But in addition to that, you're unable to force value into the situation. Everybody is special in some kind of way. But that doesn't mean that he is going to see you as special. He may not see the things that you're bringing to the table as being valuable to him because it doesn't have any impact on his life the way it may have on someone else. So forcing your value and forcing yourself into situations so that he can always see you or he can always love you or want you, that's just, it's, counterproductive and only eventually hurts. So sometimes, I will speak with women who have found themselves at a crossroads in a relationship, and maybe the man is not paying much attention to them, so they go out of their way. Like, they're the ones who's doing the majority of the calling. They're the ones who's doing the majority of the texting. They're the ones who's making most of the plans, trying to keep this relationship alive and doing things in order for him to see her as being a team player or the woman that he should be in love with. And it doesn't change anything. Sometimes temporarily he's distracted by you, so he's giving you that attention at that moment because it's like, okay, you've done a good enough job to capture his attention for that period of time. But it's not enough to change the way, the affect, like he still is him. He still sees you the same way. Obviously, you're not a priority, because if you were, he'd be giving you his time and attention without you asking for it. So, my advice is that in the beginning of a relationship, you're getting to know one another. So it may not all come at once, but there is a point in a relationship where you should find some sort of balance between the two of you, and he should be seeing the value in you and shows you that he sees that value. That should come without you asking for it. That should come because he loves you and he values you, period. You shouldn't have to ask for it. And the same should be the case for you. You should be letting him know how much he means to you, how special he is to you, and that should be something that comes without him asking for it. And if you've reached a point in your relationship where a lot of time has passed and you still have to beg for attention, beg for affection, have to show up at his house in order for him to even pay you any mind. You got to call him first in order to even talk to him on the phone. You got to be the first one to text, or the one that's texting all day in order for him to talk to you. Those may be signs and symbols that he does not see the value in you and the value in making you a priority in his life at that time.
I want to speak, as always, I want to speak to this from a man's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna talk very mannish on this topic. So, self-value is all about how you value yourself. But that does not mean that he has to value you that same way. He doesn't have to value you the same way. He doesn't have to wake up in the morning and see the sun rise and think, oh yeah, I'm going to give her everything that's within me because she thinks she's so valuable. And I think that we all have to understand that the value that we place on ourselves doesn't mean that the whole world see it. And men are of this as well. We wake up in the morning and we have these thoughts in our head that we want her to be in contact with us and we want her to be with us physically. And we just want to spend our entire day, night, and the next day, night for the rest of our lives with her, when in reality she's not thinking anything like this about you because she doesn't see the value in you as well. So just like women oftentimes get let down because that man doesn't see the value in them, men experience this also, and it might not be as often as women experience it, but it happens to men as well. But I think it's very common for women to be so hurt and let down by the man that they're dating, the man that they're in a relationship with, the man that they're married to, not placing the same value on them that they've placed on themselves. It could even be in the bedroom. Some women feel extremely neglected in the bedroom because their needs aren't being met, and now they feel like they're not being valued in his eyes enough to pay attention to their needs. Maybe that could be fixed with a conversation. Maybe it can. Maybe it can't. But I do think a conversation is a good place to start because they say that communication often fixes things. Even if you don't come to an agreement, at least the both of you now have a clear understanding of what's lacking in that value department. As far as forcing your love, I think a lot of people get their feelings hurt by trying to force their love on someone. In pre-production of this particular topic, I was trying to think of times when a man had been guilty of forcing his love, and I think it's starting to come to me now. But yeah, I've seen instances. You know what? It's normally when we fuck up as men. Normally when we fuck up as men, and our woman has left us, she doesn't want anything to do with us. It's normally then that we kind of try to force our love with the best lover for you as our woman. And now we're trying to force our love, and she's done with this shit at that point. She's been here. She was waiting for us to give her the love that she wanted when she was here. And now that she's gone, she just don't want that shit anymore now. And it's almost a miserable sight to see because that man is trying and he might be crying and he's talking to his friends and trying to vent and say how he's so ready to give her everything now. He only wants to be with her. He finally realizes it. And her answer is no, I don't want it. I've been here for the past 2 or 3 years waiting for you to give it to me. I didn't get it then, so why did I have to leave in order for you to finally realize? And for however long this particular scene plays out, it's a miserable scene to see. I've watched that happen. And I'm not saying I've watched it to say that I'm above doing it myself. I'm just saying that I've watched it happen. And I've seen how miserable he was in this process. And no matter how much he kept telling me, you know what, I've tried enough, I'm done, I'm just going to go ahead and go on with my life and be happy with someone else. Within a week or two of he and I speaking again, he was right back into that cycle of, you know what, I can't stop calling her. I can't stop trying to be with her. Translated into, I can't stop trying to force my love on her because I'm really hoping that she wakes up and see how much I just want to be with her. The funny thing in that, though, is when we do finally convince her after, let's say, a year or two of trying so hard to get her to believe that we really want to be with her now. We know we messed up when we were together, but now we really want to do it the right way. The funny thing is when we finally get her to agree to give us that shot, we mess it up almost immediately again. We spend all that time trying to just get her to give us one more chance. And then somehow, some way, we go right back into the same things that caused her to leave us in the first place. It could be other women. It could be neglecting her and not giving her the attention that she needs. It could be that. And for her, it's just all a familiar scene that probably makes her feel like, why did I do this all over again? Mm-hmm. Is that something that you've heard of from the women that you speak to?
I think that it's a little different because more often than not, we are trying to force our value all along. It's not something that, like, holding back and then forcing it on him because we've been messing up and now all of a sudden, like, we need to get with the program and start to show our love and affection. For us, we've been showing love and affection from the jump, and we're often doing that to someone who's not quite receptive. And so what happens is we either go harder in trying to help him see how important and valuable and loving, I've heard and seen women talk about just how great they are and what they can bring to the table and how valuable they can be to a man's life. You know, they'll go into spills about, they're a queen and, they'll treat their men like kings. And if they were in his life or when they're in his life, they are showering him with wisdom and love and affection and what they bring to the table and blah, blah, blah,
Hold
blah,
on for
blah.
1 second. It's going in and out. Hold on. All right, let's try now. Okay, yeah, it's clear now.
Cool. And they go on and on about what they do and what they bring that I'm wondering who they're trying to convince when I am observing this behavior. I mean, most women, I know there are shitty women in the world and there are shitty men, but the majority of us are doing the best we can. The majority of us are beautiful people. I don't hang with any women that are shitty. I know they bring a ton of things to the table. Doesn't mean that they're the right woman for every single man that they have ever dated. So having all these values, having all these attributes, being so full of love and being a beautiful woman on the inside and the outside does not mean that a man has to look at you and see all those things that you see in yourself, as you pointed out earlier, and give you the time of day and give it to you over and over again. There's got to be something in him where he's decided that he needs her and he's not afraid to show her. That to me is like the difference between relationships that there's always this give and take and this push and pull. And I mean, when I say give or take, more give and more take on the other side. Not that they're both equally giving and taking, but that she is giving and he is taking and he is not giving back because he's afraid, for whatever reason, to show her how much she is valued and loved and needed. And so he resists showing that because he don't want to be, and I'm just going to use language that is used, not that I think this, but he don't want to be no punk bitch. He don't want to be, what do you call that, like a mark. Like he don't want to be the person that looks stupid for her.
Or he don't want to look soft.
Right. He doesn't want to do that. So what he does is he acts like he doesn't need her. And here she is giving and, saying, but don't you want this love? Look at all this love I'm showering you with. I don't give you in trouble. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want it. Sometimes he does, but he's afraid to want it. He's afraid to need it, especially need. He doesn't want to rely upon it to the place where once she changes, which happens in, everybody, but once she changes for the negative possibly because that's happened to him, he's in a situation where he's given all his time and attention to this woman and she done turned out to be something else entirely. So he's afraid. So what he does is he pushes a good thing away. And it is one of the saddest things I've seen because when you have someone who is willing to give you pure love with no expectations attached to it, and when I say no expectations, I don't mean that there really aren't. There are. I mean, that person who gives really truly needs to receive love back. But the price tag may not be written out. He's not necessarily saying, I need you to talk to me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for an hour, blah, blah, blah. She just wants for this person to be open enough to know that there are going to be times when she needs that same thing back. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. All that love that she's showering, she's going to need it back at some point because she can't keep feeding him and him not feed back. So what I'm saying is there are no overt expectations that come from her. She doesn't have that. There's no motive. She just loves him. And the sad thing is he doesn't see it. All he sees is, her trying to get my attention, my affection, my love. I don't got it to give to her. It might be because of some of the things you said. It might be because he has numerous women, so he's giving them all the time and attention and affection. But here he is. He got somebody who's true. He's not even seeing her because he's so busy rotating or whatever he's doing. And when she's asking for attention, when she wants affection, when she keeps, showing up in his face, he's like, I ain't got time for that shit, pushing a good thing away. Now, here's my thing. This conversation I'm having with the listeners is not about him. When it comes down to it, fuck him. I'm sorry that whatever his background is has caused him to be hard or cold or too busy for her, and there's all kinds of reasons why he's taking this approach. I get that. We all have a story. We all have reasons why we do what we do. He may have a valid reason for him. The reality is, I'm speaking to her. You're valuable. You are loved. You shouldn't have to force yourself, and you should not have to beg for time, attention, affection, acknowledgement. You shouldn't have to beg for conversation, for time spent. You shouldn't have to. You're beautiful, and you deserve someone who sees that and not only says they see it, but they show you they see it. Someone who, when they can feel you need love today the way that you were given love yesterday, they're willing to stop what they're doing to give that to you without you even begging, because they can feel it and sense it in you. Or when you just say, I need you, they're willing to say, okay, I got you. I'm there for you. Because if you're always last on that list, you're not getting what you need. Not if you're always last on that list. So at that point, you've got to evaluate, whether this relationship is valuable to you. Why should it continue to be valuable to you? Why are you continuing to prioritize someone who won't prioritize you, who won't see the value in you until it's too late? Until they're like, you know what, it's been a while since I told her I love her, and I see, what she brings to the table, and she's so wonderful. So, it's like they're crossing off a list or their checklist, and they're going, oh, okay, who do I need to tell, I love them today, check, oh, it's time for me, it's Thursday, it's been a while since I gave her some time, let me give it to her today, check. It's not sincere or authentic. It doesn't come from a place that is love. It comes from whatever their selfish reasons are, because it's not enough. And she knows it. You know it. So value yourself, all that value that you say you have, how important you say you are. Don't be valuable and important to him or her, if you're a woman to a woman. Be valuable to yourself. Know your value and decide, I don't need to be here. Just to paraphrase, is a quote from Nina Simone, and it's one of my favorite. When love is no longer being served, you need to know when to get up from the table. Period.
And you know what? That's the perfect segue into where I wanted to come in on. If this is a relationship, if this is a marriage, that relationship or marriage is going to end ultimately if the giving is only being done one way. And I'm not necessarily speaking of the financial giving. I'm more so talking about the emotional giving. If that emotional giving is only being done from one direction, not be told neither one of them are going to be satisfied. Because there is a satisfaction for self when you're giving your love and you're giving yourself to that man or woman that you love. At bare minimum, with this being a relationship or this being a marriage, at bare minimum, there should be a full giving of self coming from both directions. Let's say if it's not a full giving, at least let it be 80-90% of yourself that you're giving. But if it's just straight up 100 coming from one direction and then it's 0 coming from the other, you're headed for the end very fast. I'm talking about 160 miles per hour fast. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to last. Whoever's giving all of it, they're going to be so hurt and emotionally destroyed that they're not going to have a choice but to pull out of this, even if it's only for the sake of saving themselves. For that person who's giving and not receiving anywhere near the love that they know that they need, you're not wrong for giving the way that you're giving it. It could just simply be that she doesn't want it or he doesn't want what you're giving. Like you said earlier, yeah, we all are beautiful people in our core. We're just not with the right person who sees that value in us. And that doesn't make us less beautiful. We either need to be to ourselves and blossom fully in our beauty, or we need to be with that person who recognizes that beauty within us and that beauty that we're trying to express all the way by giving us their beauty without holding anything back as well. A lot of people really damage themselves mentally and emotionally because they feel like it's something that they're doing wrong when that opposite person isn't receiving all of the love that they're trying to give. And I want to say again, it might not be you. It's just that person that you're trying to give it to isn't compatible with all of the value that you have for yourself or all of the love that you have to give. This person just doesn't know what to do with it. And that doesn't make them a bad person either. They're just not that person for you. I'll speak freely on this one. I can openly say that there was a time when I was with a woman that I considered to be a beautiful woman, but I knew that she just wasn't my woman. There's things that I enjoy doing that she just didn't have a clue about. And that didn't make her any less beautiful. I just recognized that she wasn't the beautiful woman that I needed. And of course, we had to end. I wanted certain things that she didn't want. She wanted things that I didn't want. The only thing that we could do was end. Unfortunately, a little harder most times. Men tend to be more chaotic when that woman that they love leaves them. Men have a tendency to be very violent sometimes, and I don't really want to talk about it too much, but there's a lot of stories of men turning violent when that woman leaves, but no matter what, she left because it was in her best interest. It wasn't because men take that personal also. Men think, oh, she left me, she don't want me, so now she can't be with anybody else. No, she left you because leaving you was absolutely in her best interest. She wasn't receiving the love that she wanted, or she recognized that she couldn't give you the love that you needed, so she did both of you the favor and left the situation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a totally separate topic, but I want to throw this one in here also. When people come out of abusive relationships, a lot of times their head is very clouded when they're in that new relationship. No matter how much time was in between the abusive relationship and the non-abusive relationship, their head is often very clouded because they're so used to that physical abuse. They don't even feel loved without you physically abusing them. And that's a conflict of love in itself, because if a man's love style is not, let me not say that, because physically abusing a woman is not a love style. But if you're with a man who just does not believe in putting his hands on you in any way whatsoever, at some point, that woman needs to recognize that this is love. Him not hitting me is love. In that path to recognizing the love that he's giving her without hitting him, some women become abusive themselves because they're begging for that engagement of the violence, because they're just so used to that from prior experiences. For the men in that situation, It's the same thing. It comes right back down to you're trying to force your love on this woman who thinks that she needs to be physically abused in order to receive love. That's a very hard relationship to be in, then, because no matter what happens, you're not going to hit this woman. She could hit you all she wants. And I'm not saying that it's right for a woman to hit a man, but no matter what that woman does to him, he's just not going to hit her. That's not his love style. And for the sake of his sanity, for the sake of his emotions and love, he might have to pull out of that at some point. Yeah, he loves that woman. He would never hit her. He would never raise his voice at her. But because she's in need of that, she now becomes the woman that he does not need. So now he has to leave that equation also. I think it's a very beautiful thing when two people are giving love equally to each other and receiving love equally, and they're making that work. You could just see it in them. They don't have to express it verbally. They don't have to go on social media and tell everybody. They don't have to go on social media and show everybody. Anybody that sees them, it could just be a picture that was taken. If you see them, you can see the love in them. And I think you and I had talked about this in one of our previous episodes, but a lot of times when people go on social media and they're screaming to everyone how great their relationship and or marriage is, a lot of times it'd be the total opposite. A lot of times there's so much turmoil going on within that marriage and or relationship. He's got a woman and babies on the side. She's got another man and or men on the side. A lot of times, nothing about that relationship or marriage should be put out there for the world to see. But people try to disguise how miserable their relationship or marriage is by praising it and screaming how perfect their spouse is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we're reading these things, we can kind of tell that it's not really what you're trying to tell us because you're trying too hard. Just like people try to force their love on their spouse too hard, people try to force their love for their spouse on the world too hard also. And to be honest with you, the world don't really care about how great you're saying your relationship or marriage is, because it's not our relationship or marriage. Your relationship and or marriage is for you and your husband or your wife. Why are you in our face every day, all day, telling us about how great it is? Maybe it is, but in most cases it's not. And we're not hoping that it's not. We can just tell, but in all of the words that you're giving us, that it's not really what you're trying to tell us. And maybe you just need somebody to talk to. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you're giving us all of these posts because you want somebody to talk to, you want somebody to cry to, and let them know that you're not happy because he's not loving you right, or maybe you're not happy because you're not loving him right. Because when we're not loving our spouse, our partner the right way, that's a heavy fucking burden. Yeah, we're off doing our thing. Let's take gambling, for example. A lot of people fuck up their marriage over gambling habits. I'm talking about men, really. Men really, really, really mess up their marriage over gambling habits. The gambling habits are probably more vicious other women involved in that relationship and or marriage. Because at least with the other woman, it is a physical person. You could kind of get it under control to some degree, even if you end up leaving the marriage to go be with that person. At least you've given your wife an opportunity to accept it, deal with it, and overcome it whenever that time may come. It's probably going to take a very long time, but at least they'll eventually have that opportunity. But when it comes to gambling habits take the same toll and effect on a man as drug habits. Men lose weight over gambling habits. They know that they messed up the house money. The bills aren't being paid properly. The mortgage isn't being paid properly now. He's putting his wife and his children in danger of being put out on the streets because he's in the casinos gambling, or he's in these secret houses having late poker nights, losing all of the money that was in the savings and all of the money that was dedicated to the bills. And now he just don't know how to come talk to his wife and let her know that he got them in the hole, and he has no way how to get them out. So what he does is he goes back, and he keeps going back to gamble, thinking that he's going to win his way out of the hole that he's created for himself, when in reality, once he gets into that hole, there's a great possibility that he's just going to sink deeper into that hole and destroy the marriage even more. I don't think gambling habits get talked about enough in relationships and marriages. Because if I'm your man and I have a gambling habit, you better believe that my gambling habit is going to affect us. And the reason I'm using this gambling story is because that can be a reason why a man's not accepting a woman's love, and a woman's now trying to force her love on that man. He's so distracted on all of the money he's lost. He's so distracted on getting to game night to try to win some money, and with this money that he's going to win, he's going to buy the house, he's going to buy the car, he's going to buy the ring, he's going to take her on all of these vacations around the world. He has it all set up in his mind because he knows he's going to win this money, and now he lost the money, and he got to go home to her, who's ready to love him and kiss all over him and give him everything that's in her spirit. Comes home and he looks completely defeated. That brings her spirit down because she see it, she feel it, she know that something's not right. Most likely he's telling her that he was going to do all of these great things with her, and now he don't know how to look her in the eyes and tell her, I can't do it now. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Things that you were talking about earlier that I wanted to remark upon is when people shout from the rooftops what their relationship is like, and it being the opposite, and that why are we doing it when no one really cares? And I think that it's the same thing that people do when they brag about anything they have. One of the interesting things about going through the period of time we're going through right now, with there being a pandemic and it having caused so many shutdowns and slowing the economy, slowing our ability to travel, is it's humbled most people, of course, and they have so much income that this didn't do anything to them. But for the most part, most people, their lives changed, and changed in such a way, even at the basic level of not being able to go to restaurants, not being able to go shopping outside and get new things and show off those new things, not being able to get the hair done or nails done, or stand outside in front of a car and have a picture taken, not being able to brag. It was interesting to see social media without all of that flaunting of shit. Okay? When I was a little girl, I had a friend who I thought was my best friend. And this isn't about her not being my best friend, but I'm just saying I thought she was my best friend. And every Christmas that we were friends, she would call me on Christmas morning, but it was never really about her saying Merry Christmas. She always wanted to know what I got. She always wanted to know what I got for Christmas. And then she would go down the list of all the things she got. So this is way before the internet and way before our abilities to show people the things that we got.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today, people on holidays or special occasions, they go through all the trouble of posting the things people get them. It's kind of disgusting, and I know that's just a personal opinion. Some people love seeing that thing. Some people don't think that that's, bragging, or some people think it's beautiful to see people do well, but it's just a personal thing for me that it just seems gluttonous. It just seems, I don't know, I just don't like the idea of people bragging about the shit they have. It's so materialistic. But that is the world in which we live in, that we want to show people what we have. And I've said on this show numerous times that relationships for a lot of people are possessions. A lot of times people get it confused and they think that the women or men are looking at the other person in the relationship as their possession. Maybe sometimes. But more often, they're looking at the relationship as a possession, a thing that they own, a thing that they've worked on, a thing they've built up, a thing that they've put all their resources into. It's a thing. So when, this thing is seemingly doing well or did something interesting or went somewhere special, we want to show people this thing. We want to show them, we went on, this beautiful vacation and we did this and look at what he gave me and, we're so great and we're so wonderful, because it all fits into the same thing. It's about bragging. Often the same people you see show off their relationships, if you're paying attention, are the same people that show off anything. Anything. They show it all off. They want people to desire it for themselves. They want people to think that they are something special, more special because they have it. It is a way of building their self-esteem. That's my belief. And maybe if you're listening in and you're one of those people and you disagree, I'd love to hear then what is the reason that you do it. Because I'm not saying that social media isn't a platform in which we show people things. Everybody's showing someone something. I just mean that there is a very prominent showing off of things.
Everything.
And right, with some people.
Yeah.
They're like, as soon as they go anywhere, they went.
Yeah, you never have to wonder what they're doing and who they're doing it with. They're
right.
going to show us.
They're going to show us, and they're going to also show us what they got. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to see their shoes, you're going to see their clothes, you're going to see their new hairstyle, you're going to see whatever. Like, they want you to know they got this shit. And to me, that's the same as the showing of the relationship, to convince us, because what does that do? All right, I know it doesn't do anything for me, but I think we live in a world where influencers are important because people want what they have. So that's what it does, is it makes people either jealous, envious, they think that you are somebody important because you have all these things, or you go all these places, or you have a man, and you have a man that does this, that with you. It doesn't matter that when the camera gets put down or the phone and y'all go back to doing whatever you were doing right before the flash, that he's like, okay, I'll catch you later, and he's gone. It doesn't matter that he's not spending the rest of the day with you after that picture. that he doesn't value you or love you and give you the time and attention. It doesn't matter, because at that snap of the picture, what we all get to see is this wonderful, beautiful thing. But you want us to believe that. It makes you feel better about it. Having things for a lot of people makes them feel better about what they don't have. That's my belief. You know, how many times have you heard about retail therapy? Even in
Right.
the pandemic, you know, just we were talking about it on a previous episode where, you know, being in this pandemic, we don't have control over a lot. But the one thing we can do is shop at Amazon, and they'll send us shit in 2 days, essential, non-essential. And it makes us feel better, you know? So it's like we want to feel better about our situation, and oftentimes that's what we're doing. We're covering up what's painful with something that really isn't important and really won't make us feel better in the long run, but it's temporary. So the flashing of the pictures and the posting of the pictures and the accolades you receive from people almost immediately. Oh, y'all so cute. You're so beautiful. You know, I love your hair, girl. Oh, your face looks so pretty, and blah, 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 blah. Like, when it comes down to it, like, that's temporary. At some point, that post will run out of traction. Won't nobody give a shit about it. They've moved on. They did whatever. And you still are there with your ugly face after you take that makeup off. Or the hair that, you know, like, you got to pay how much money to keep it like that. Or once you remove that diamond off your finger, it's just a hand. Once he walks out the house, you're still alone. It doesn't change anything. And so this is why my message is not for us understanding why he is or isn't. It's about us deciding for ourselves that not being in a relationship where you are not valued and knowing that it hurts you. You've got to make a decision that being alone feels better than being with someone who makes you feel alone. Because what's the point? What's the point in being with someone who's not seeing you? What's the point? I don't know that point. Think of my life partner. I know I'm not alone. I know that at any given time, he's reaching out and he's letting me know he loves me in his own way. Now that you know, that we've had plenty of conversations about different loving styles and how there's compatibility with certain loving styles. So ours seems to work. So, you know, it doesn't mean that he's texting all day or he's sending pictures all day or that even I'm doing those things. I'm just saying that in the way in which we love, I know I can get love from him, and he knows he's getting love from me, and that's that. Is it 100? I think the effort is always 100, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that because maybe it's a really, really bad day for me. But one of the things that I learned, and you said this before earlier in the show, communication. One of the things that I had to learn, and he had to learn as well, is that mind readers, even though you are with someone and you've been with someone for some time, and oftentimes you can sense when something's going on, and either you approach your lover or partner and ask them, you know, what's going on. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it. That's fine. But you have to be willing to communicate that now is not a good time for them to be trying to receive love, okay, from you. That is a rule in my marriage, is that if either of us are in a very bad emotional place for whatever reason, after the death of my grandmother, I felt numb for a period of time. That would not, and it wasn't a really good time for my husband to be seeking my love, my affection, my attention, for me to be giving. So what I didn't do, though, is because it's completely understandable that I'm going through that and should not be required to give 100% of love and affection, I still communicated with him that the reason why I'm not giving this to you right now is because I don't have it to give. I didn't just leave him hanging. I didn't just stop, slow down on what I was usually doing and being more cold and distant and then expected him to pick up on the cues. That's unfair to him. I had to communicate.
Yeah.
Because how unfair is it for someone to not be receiving something that they need? It's just what it is. Men need love, women need love. How fair would it be to just stop giving my love and affection in a way that he is used to just because I'm going through something, but expect him to just know and to just deal with it? No, that's just not how that works. I have a responsibility, even in my pain, to know that this man loves me, has loved me through whatever, and I love him too. And when I come through whatever I'm going through, I want him to still be there. How do I ensure that he's still going to be there? I say, I see you. I love you. I know you're here. I know what you need. And baby, as soon as I come through whatever this is, you'll get it from me. But if I say nothing, he's going to be frustrated by the lack of whatever. He's going to try to get it. And I'm only going to be treating him as if he's selfish for wanting it. But guess what? Did I tell him I didn't have it? Did I tell him why I had to switch up? If I didn't, then it's not selfish of him to want it. He's only trying to get what we do. He's only trying to love me and be loved in return. And one of the biggest things I like, one of the biggest flaws or issues I see in relationships when you speak to people, when I'm speaking to people, is that someone feels entitled to have their own space and own time and own way without communicating with their partner that is what they need to be doing at that time, is focusing on self. Marriages don't go very far if you're constantly focused on self with no regard to the other person. We are individuals, but we're a couple. How can we constantly move and grow together if I'm going through my own shit and I'm saying I'm not taking you with me? How? It's impossible. Actually, he and I just had this conversation last night. We're lying in the bed, and I was like, one of the things, because we're coming up on 20 years of being together. It's just in a few months. And when I look back through time, I'm like, we really have had a good relationship and marriage. I mean, it's not all been easy. There have been times we have really gotten on each other's nerves. There are times we've been mad at each other. Mad. Not really fighting, but mad. There have been times that I was, especially in the beginning, was very insecure about whether we would actually make it. So I remember there being times I wondered, like, are we going to make it through this first year? Because everything just, it wasn't clicking and running so smooth all the time because we were getting used to each other. So when I was looking back through this time that we've had, though, and I said it's overwhelmingly been wonderful, how was that possible? And we both came to the consensus that we took each other with us. I am not the same woman he met 20 years ago. There are glimpses of that woman. I was a young woman, not yet 21. A lot has changed, not just physically, mentally, emotionally. I am different. And one of the main things is I know exactly who I am. And I won't do stuff I really just don't want to do. And I'm very clear at, like, no, I don't like that. No, I don't want that. Do you like that? Okay. And I may say, okay, you go ahead and you do that. There are some things I will compromise on. But like my faith, my beliefs, and all that, whatever's fine for me, nope. I know. At 20 years ago, I thought I knew, and I didn't. Same with him. But we took each other with us. So any growing pain I was going through, I was, sometimes it wasn't immediate, but I would eventually say, I'm going through something. And I'm struggling, or, I'm not struggling, but I just want you to know, I've been quiet lately, and this is why. Or this is what I'm considering doing. What do you think? Because I'm not required to do that with anyone, but with my husband I am. Because if I want him with me, I got to take him with me. The same with him. He wants me with him, he got to take me. He's got to let me in.
And just from listening to that, that's the beauty in what you and him share. The two of you take each other where you're both going.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I say all that to say that not that you have to have my marriage. I often use, even as private as I am, and there's a lot of shit you just really don't know. You really don't know anything. But I share some of the things that works for me. It doesn't mean your relationships have got to look like ours. But I'm sharing parts of what makes certain things work. So if you're listening in and you feel like, it's not going your way, and it seems like you're always struggling to get your partner to recognize who you are, how beautiful you are, and what you bring, just know that there's only a period of time in which you should be teaching someone how beautiful you are and showing them that. There comes a time when he should see it or she should see it. And if they just choose to ignore it or decide that, you're not a priority, like King said, there could be a number of reasons. Doesn't mean that, he doesn't even see that you're beautiful. It may just not be the type of beautiful that he may need in his life. But I'm here to tell you that it's not about them. It's about you.
Right, because no matter who you're with, you have to bring you into it.
Yep. It's your value. You can't make someone see your value if they just don't want to see it, don't want it. But you've got to have self-value and decide when to pull away from a situation that's just not good for you. So don't force yourself in. Let yourself out when it's time. That's all I got to say today, and I think you're done, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so we just want to thank you for listening in to The Universe is Talking. And as always, it's been a pleasure to have you with us as you listen in. We want to hear from you, though, so don't be afraid to leave those comments below, or to even share thoughts on topics that you want us to address. Maybe not this season, but next season, because we're gearing up for preparing for season 3. In the meantime, be sure to like, follow, and share. And until next time, love on each other.